when I was managing India, we had sold some 28 machines in India. And
so you had any competition?
No competition.
No competition.
We were the undisputed leaders of Indian market at that time.
28 machines with no competition.
With no competition. In Middle East, I was locked for like 3 days.
Locked?
I was locked for 3 days. I was like literally kidnapped. That's it. Unless this machine goes well, you're not going to leave the company. Like imagine a 65 lakh machine to a 15 lakh machine, and you have been told to sell a machine in that same space where the target audience is same. How do you do that? My thoughts, because sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes you feel that this guy is talking bullshit. But people have believed in me at certain. Like imagine to do a radio frequency. I come from a commerce background, and to talk about radio frequency, it's like east-west. And one thing I always want to say is that never use your brand vehicle to sell a printer to a businessman. Don't do that.
Hi Santosh, welcome to Ink Stories.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me in the first place. I really appreciate you have taken your time out for kind of inviting a person like me.
Yeah.
So it's like
let me tell you, I have seen you the last 10 years. I started off somewhere around 2013, and I've been seeing you at the HP stalls, leading the stall, selling machines, and I'd seen a certain kind of energy which was what, if I may say, electric. And I always felt that there's a lot to this guy, and he's someone who's working in this organization. I didn't know you that very well and close and personal. So when I started this podcast, it was something that I had in my mind that I want to have Santosh as one of the guys for the podcast, and I think I've been chasing you for a while.
Yeah, it has been my apologies that it has been always.
It's absolutely fine. We say when it is the right time, it happens. So today is the right time, and we are doing it.
Yeah.
So we are
on
here
a rainy day.
On a rainy day. Yes. So sipping a cup of coffee.
Yes.
So we are here talking about you're the first guy who's probably worked like an employee for the longest period of time, and now running your own business. So we are here to talk about your journey, about the interesting things you told me before we started, and I want this to be known to the world.
Okay.
So are you all set? Can we start?
Yeah. More than happy to kickstart this.
Great. So you told me about this transformation from hand painting for movie posters to digital. Let's start from there. I think that's the thing.
I think my career. I think my journey started almost early 90s. Early, I would say it was almost. If I really precise, it was almost early. Exactly 30 years ago, 32 years ago, and the industry was all on hand painting market. And I had this fascination when I started my career. It was coincidental that I was working for a printing company, and it came to a point where the print started fascinating me a lot. And during my studies as well, I was actually kind of going through the grind of knowing the nuances of the print part of it. And it came to a point where this became more like a challenging stuff. And I, being a guy who has always accepted disruptions, I always wanted to work against the flow that you call, and always create something which out of the box, so this has been always my forte. So at that time also I felt that this definitely has some some big journey ahead.
And we're talking about the early 90s.
This is way early. I mean, this is exactly 1991, and that's when I kind of got into this foray. And I was quite lucky enough that I was given this opportunity to kind of explore digital industry, and which was prevalent globally only in some parts of hardly out of US for something. It was just starting, and I happened to be in those times when the journey had just begun globally, and it came to a point where I was given this opportunity, and I grabbed it with both hands. And even though I was not sure how it will shape up, how long it will go, how far it will go, but I took that leap of faith, and I started it. And trust me that it has never been so satisfying, the hardship that one has gone through.
Sure.
Especially when you're moving from a very primitive market to a digital, digital was a very big word in early 90s. It was very big. I mean, it was considered, wow, digital. I mean, it was like hand painting to digital was something. It was not even analog. It had completely moved from straight to digital from the industry that I am speaking primarily the large format market.
Correct.
The large format market was also, that word itself was coined from a billboard perspective. So it was not that it was not there.
The 10 feet by 20 feet, 20 feet by 40 feet,
so
those
that's
sizes.
why the large format word actually was coined globally.
Okay.
And large format came in because digital in its own thing was there, whether it was the proofing industry or the processing industry. It was already there, and there were these small machines that had already made an entry. Like, I started my career with a 36-inch NCAD machine. NCAD used to be like in those days, wow, NCAD, it was that kind of a machine. I started from there. Then I started with the Xerox docu-series, which was way, in those days it used to be a big, it was a big technology in those days, but they were all in the interior. I mean, it was in a small space. But when the large format system came in, it was coined because it was like, glorified digital thing. It was out of the box, big prints, huge ones. So that's how the large format came into play.
So earlier it was all hand painted?
It was all hand painted. So I still
even large hoardings?
Even the large hoardings were always hand painted, and I was given that task, not me per se, it was a team. I mean, see, nothing
Obviously
happens individually, but when a group of people who have the same conviction come together, that's how we set the ball rolling. And coincidentally, my company where I was working,
where was this?
This was Chitralekha. There was this project called Skyliners that was launched in India. It was primarily the first, company in India which went completely gung-ho with this whole thing that this is the future. And they had this entire investment happened on that. And it was really kind of a big leap. And in those times, the group of people came together and we started working towards. So then we started slowly, steadily, we started transferring or migrating from hand painting market to couple of prints in coming in.
Which was the first hoarding?
So the first hoarding I still remember was for a corporate, if I can take the name. It was for Cadbury's, where we did this. We freezed one particular frame of a ad, which was where this guy hits for a 6 and this girl comes running onto the stadium. Actually freezed it. And we printed this and we had put this up, and that was kind of, as far my remembrance goes, it is almost 30 years ago. It was the first hoarding that we did in India, which was completely homegrown. It was done in India, printed in India, installed by us.
Okay.
And that's how it started in the corporate world. Then Bollywood followed, and Bollywood started, and then we did a lot of stuff.
Which was the first digital hoarding in Bollywood?
The first digital hoarding was for Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, which we had DDLJ. That was, and that too, it was a self-adhesive print. It was not even a flex print. It was a self-adhesive print, which we had done at one of the Jew sites in Bombay, primarily because we were like, it was, the wind was quite heavy, and so it was the first print that we did, and it was a huge crowd puller, I would say. People used to throng to that place to see a life-size photograph being put over there. And imagine that, the high point was that, it was just an 18 dpi print.
18 dpi is dots per square inch for our friends.
As far as for the technology part, if you say, it's the resolution.
Resolution.
So today when we talk 1200 dpi and 360 dpi and all native resolution,
it was as low as 18 dpi.
It was as low as 18 dpi. So
almost 100 times lower.
Yeah, and the other aspect, the other challenge that was there was the proofings used to happen at much higher resolution. The proofings, but to interpolate that to an 18 dpi, you can imagine the loss of image. But how to then balance it out and bring it. So we were in that space. So we have learnt it a very hard way. Prints used to go, so we used to see it like, my God, like, and then the viewing distance. So we were always working with viewing distance in place. So whenever a print used to be done, the marketing team used to always tell us that this is at 40 feet viewing distance, this is at 60 feet viewing distance.
So the distance
also mattered.
Hoarding decides how you're going to print it.
Yeah. So we used to even decide that, like, okay, is this going to be at the top of a building, or is it going to be at an arm's length at a highway? So based on that, the resolutions were being interpolated. So even that used to be, like, today it's like a cakewalk. I mean, if you look at today, you get a file, you just print it, because the entire ecosystem is oiled and it is all aligned with each other. But in those days, there was no alignment. I mean, the proof that we used to receive was a CMYK. It was used to progressive proofing. I used to get a CMYK sheet separate, and we had to merge it and then get the final print. So we used to never we used to never even get a real CMYK proof. It used to be a proofing. So imagine the loss, and the guy who was sitting on the system had to really work through that and ensure that the color loss is taken care of, where to boost the inks. But at what resolution are we talking? It's all about 18 dpi. But that was the days. I mean, it was really, so I have been with that school where we have kind of disrupted that market.
I mean, you worked with Chitralekha for how many years doing this?
And it was almost till I think till 95,
95, 4, 5 years.
And then after that, I was slightly adventurous, and I took that leap of faith to kind of go to US, and the company kind of took me, the machine that was installed. I started working for them, and I got into international sales. That was somewhere in 96.
Okay.
And from 96 onwards, then I was managing the sales of this machine, and then the entire stuff is that develop the market.
Okay.
Now developing the market was a big challenge, because doing it at somebody else's conviction was something else. Now it was my own conviction that I had to develop this market.
You were the only employee for that company?
I was the only employee.
Which company are we talking about?
This is Skytek out of US.
Okay.
And it was a
But how did they decide to come in India that early?
It was me. I mean, it was just my pursuance.
How did you meet them?
Because the machine was installed in India, and engineers were there. So as I've been very lucky with people in my career. There have been people who have kind of been angels to me. I would really put it that way.
Sure.
They have kind of. So, wherever I am today, there are a lot of people who have backed me for my thoughts, because sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes you feel that this guy is talking bullshit. But people have believed in me at certain stages. So, at every stage, people have been there to believe in what I was talking. And that is when, it drove. And those people are kind of then gave me that chance.
I'm sure. Some amazing experiences from the Skytek story?
Oh, yeah.
Skytek journey?
I mean, it was a lot of stuff where, we had this experience of selling machines when we had this 21-foot machine which we sold in India. It was the first of its kind.
21 feet?
21-foot machine.
Wow.
In India, and it was the only machine that was there at that time globally. Primarily because 5 meter was brought in India because US had 5 meter machines. I mean, the billboards used to be in 5 meters. So they never had this concept of seaming what we do today in tilings. They used to always have a 5 meter roll put because labor was expensive over there. So they actually designed that machine in such a way that labor is not required. So you just print and just put it up. India was a different story. You had a 5 meter, but here the hoardings used to be in tens. It used to be 10s, 20s, 10 by 20, 20, 40, 30, 60.
So you mean to say seaming is a concept very Indian specific?
If you ask me, it's very Asia specific.
Asia specific.
It's not US specific. So at that time, we didn't know how to seam. I mean, when the first print came, I still remember we were really thinking how to seam. We didn't know because there is no precedence to it, and neither there is reference to it. So we had to reinvent ourselves in terms of how to do that. So that's when the whole point of radio frequency seaming came into play, and we started doing a lot of R&Ds around it. So at every stage, along with print, there were a lot of allied R&Ds that happened to create the ecosystem in place.
True.
And that is where I was I won't say exceptional, but I was very lucky, and I was very excited to always ensure that every dot is connected.
To do something different.
Yeah, something different. And these were all, like, imagine to do a radio frequency. I come from a commerce background, and to talk about radio frequency, it's like east-west. And but it was a subject which kind of was helping me attain my final goal, which was to put a print of a 20 by 40, which had seamings in it.
Yeah.
So
you had no choice but to learn and see how it can be done.
It works. And see, that is where conviction from the bosses also play an important role. Like, okay, go for it. Let's see what it is.
So how many machines from the US company did you sell in India?
So then what happened is the 90s decade, when I'm talking from 90 to 2000, was a decade where the actual transformation of digital started.
Okay.
So I'm saying that it took a leap from 18 DPI to straight 200 DPI.
Okay.
So when 200 DPI came into play, this company then launched a machine called Salsa, which is very Mexican. And being from Texas, Salsa was a natural name that would come up. So Salsa was like a brand that came up, and by that time in India, we had sold some 5 or 6 machines. But then when Salsa came in, the entire digital industry in the large format space got disrupted, because now photographic quality was coming in the billboard market. That's when the entire disruption started, and 97 onwards, if you look at it, when I was managing India, we had sold some 28 machines in India. And
So you had any competition?
No competition.
No competition.
We were the undisputed leaders of Indian market at that time.
28 machines with no competition.
With no competition. And the only machine that came was somewhere in 99 when Macromedia. Naresh got the first Skytek machine. That was my first sale of a competitor in India.
Oh, okay. That might have disheartened you in terms of competition.
But then it was because see, somewhere I always feel that you need competition.
True.
If you get complacent. If you don't have competition, you get complacent.
True.
And that's how India was set up on a platter for then the rest of the people to walk in
and you were like amongst the few guys who were selling machines in the wide format.
Yes, globally. I mean, in those days you could count people on your fingers at how many people are actually in the wide format, because it was a very difficult Asia specific, I would say. There were hardly 3-4 people who were selling this. Entire Asia.
So if I may take the liberty to say that you were amongst the creators of this industry in India.
I that's too big a statement, it's not that, but it's like somebody else would have done it not me. But yes, I got that opportunity and I really slogged it to ensure that this happens.
Lovely.
And I was completely focused.
Lovely.
I was completely focused, and Asia specific, because US is a developed market, Australia is a developed market.
So Skytek's got this market on a platter. He was India mein itna scope, and especially those times when India was not really among or talked about the way it is done today.
Exactly, it was an underdeveloped
market.
And whenever a new product line used to come, India was never on the radar. It was never on the, even in my last stint, whenever new product lines used to be there, India was always considered at the second stage or third stage.
Second or third, totally agree. Yeah, my work.
Exactly.
Also, I would agree.
So, but
we are not the number one country to be thought of when the global leaders plan their business strategy.
Exactly. I still remember when I was with Skytek and Salsa, our sales meet used to happen in US, and there were like 6 people globally coming. And these were the sales guys who were managing the entire sales for entire world. We were the 6 guys. And from Asia, there were 2 people. That's it. That's it. No one was there. So because
whole of Asia
there was hardly 2. I don't remember there was any. Yeah, there were 2 people right now. Yeah, there were 2 people. That's it. I still remember them, and one coming from China and one was coming from, I think, Korea, or that's it. And again, if you look at from an Asia perspective, Korea is way ahead in terms of the development stage. If you look at it, so India was still an underdeveloped nation. So any kind of product line, even if you have to ask for it, was looked upon as a not today. We'll talk later. So that attitude was always there, and I always had to break it. So for me, what happened is when after Skytek and when Salsa happened, and after that when I took that break, I took that break somewhere in 2002. When Salsa was sold to Noor macro printers,
Israeli
company. And then after that, I kind of took a break for a couple of years, and those couple of years again was very instrumental for me. Because then again a disruption happened when we kind of brought in thermal printing machines in India, which was a ribbon-based technology, which no one had even seen before. And ribbon-based technology was all about having the screen. I mean, little bit technical, I would say, a screen dot coming onto digital. So we had kind of tried to see how we can actually, and there was this company, Metro Media Technologies, which was Rajesh Kapila's father, Mr. Omkarnath Kapila. I mean, he's like a godfather. I mean, he's like a god to me. I mean, today wherever I am, I think major contribution came from him.
I have not met him, but I'm sure he is. Rajesh is a great guy.
I mean, they are like the stalwarts of the industry, I would say.
Lovely.
And there's a legacy that he's carrying forward.
So they were the first guys who put this machine.
And it was like something, again, their conviction was ahead of time. And that I was again fortunate enough that I was part of it. And there I was actually under the guidance of Mr. Kapila, the color management and his conviction of, moving from, bringing digital in a very mainstream space And so that was one big learning, and that kind of set the stage for me to take that leap when the actual digitalization started happening, especially because the resolutions went up. The way of digital printing took a different turn altogether. The color management systems had come into play. The speed had come into play, the turnaround time factor. So all aspects which was beyond prints were now being discussed. So it helped me a lot, and that's when I got this opportunity to work with and Skytek happened. I mean, Insight.
Okay.
So I was in part of Insight team, and
yeah.
again when I was with Insight, the kind of backup I got was phenomenal, because they believed in my conviction.
Lovely.
That and for me then it came to a point that how to get Skytek going in the country, and luckily for us it happened that the telecom boom started.
Oh, okay.
So when telecom boom started but before that, during Kapilaji, I was instrumental in launching the Idea Cellular logo.
Okay.
Which was
the yellow.
The yellow. So that was in 2003.
Okay.
I still remember. So Kapilaji had major inputs in that. So the guy who's right now heading, he was instrumental as a regional head at that time. So Kapilaji, that's when I learned colors. This is how colors are to be seen and everything. So that helped me when Vodafone happened.
Okay, that's your HP journey started.
Yeah, that was towards my HP. My journey towards HP was coming.
That was molding you into.
Yeah, that was. And so when Insight happened, and again, whether it was Ajay, whether it was Mr. Rippy, Aluwalia, Mr. Aluwalia, and they all believed in somewhere that I could pull this off. Again, because in those days, a solvent. Ultimately, we were talking solvent machines, right? UV is a trend today, but I'm talking of 2006. 2006 was still solvent. Everything was solvent, but in the larger scale, and it was like a larger than life product. Anyone who had a solvent machine was considered like a
big man.
As a big man, So that's how it started. And then when telecom boom happened, I was again lucky enough that I was part of that boom. So I was there when the transition started. A lot of the team effort was in place. Everyone was talking the same language. We had to go for the kill, and then Skytek kind of started, gaining momentum in the industry, because the need of the hour was prints had to be consistent across the country. The colors came into play. The color management came into play. The reds had to be red during day and night.
The Vodafone reds.
The Vodafone reds. Then Airtel followed. So the telecom boom started. And when the telecom boom started, then 2007, I moved to HP.
But tell me, how could you convince, the solid machines are relatively cheaper, and these machines, HP machines, I know they are expensive. So how did you convince people to
See, it's about how you drive the value of a product, because I have never sold a machine on price.
Oh, okay.
That's my forte. I always believed that create a pull and sales follows.
Give us some examples and let's go deeper.
So let's, for example, in those days, the solvent machines used to be anywhere between 75 to 85 lakhs.
Okay.
That used to be the cost of the machines. Now imagine a solvent machine to be sold in that fashion. You needed a lot of conviction, not only from our side, but even from a business point of view. How do you invest so much in a time when the digital trend was changing rapidly? As a businessman, you always felt that, if I invest today, in 6 months, the way I see the trend going, this would get obsolete. So what is it that will keep me going, or what is it that I need to invest at this point of time? So it is about showing the value proposition from where the trend is, how you are fitting into that scheme of things, by showing the real-time situation, what is your gains, how you are going to capitalize on these investments, and show them value proposition. Because if you don't show the value part of it, and I have been a learner of spin. For me, spin training.
What is spin?
Spin basically is a sales model.
Okay.
Is a model where you kind of push, or you kind of how to put this. It's all about driving a sale, but from a value proposition.
Okay. So basically a form of value selling.
It's a value.
Which probably most MNCs use.
It's all about how you address the pain points.
Oh, okay.
So those days, even though there was a business opportunity, there were a lot of challenges because digital was not at its matured level.
Yeah,
there was
I'm sure.
Of,
I mean,
lot of stepping. So even in those phases, there were a lot of developments happening. So every model used to have one more model which was better than that. So that was a time when things were changing rapidly.
Yeah.
But we then, always used to show that, so the whole idea is that the moment we created an opportunity, we showed the opportunity to the
business opportunity.
The business opportunity, automatically every businessman saw the value.
The customer got sucked in.
So that is where we started showing the value, and that's how the pull was created.
Yeah.
So the moment we showed the brand, so my forte always has been to go to the corporates and create a pull for the product, and that has always been the way I've worked. But not only during HP times, but it was when I started in '97. I still remember there was a ITC Open that had happened in Bangalore. The only tennis tournament that happened when Mats Wilander had come to Bangalore. And Ramesh Krishnan was...
Okay, the times of Ramesh Krishnan.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had done a backdrop for ITC.
Achha.
And that was when I had flown to Calcutta and I had kind of, specced it. And that happened from Bombay, it went and it was kept over there. So,
lovely.
From those days I always...
So, you've always been a value selling guy, not a box selling guy.
Because I never had I never got the opportunity or the freedom to sell anything at price, because I never had the ecosystem surrounding it to be sold at a price.
Because 15-20 लाख के मशीन के सामने आपको 80 लाख या 2 करोड़ का मशीन बेचना है. So you can't sell it just because अच्छा ये मशीन कोई खरीदेगा, कि महंगा है क्यों खरीदेगा, unless you have a value.
Exactly. So I had to create a lot of value propositions. I had to always think outside, and as I always said, always get into the customer's shoes first and think it from his perspective, that what is it that will make him buy a 80 lakh machine. So unless you address that situation, you cannot sell an 80 lakh machine. Right? So I always used to step on that side and then make him see the way I want to make him look.
You are mentioning some example of the Indian Railways that you...
Yeah, I mean that was something, yes. So that was something when, there was this opportunity where, the railways wanted to have the wraparounds.
Okay.
And, when the wraparounds happened, the challenge was all about, the timing. When the train comes into a
turnaround time,
kitna jaldi karna hai, but not compromising on the quality factor, not compromising on the costing factor, colors, at the same time speed. So when these four elements came into play, the corporate which actually wanted to do this, automatically the big machines came into play. So,
and what was the price of that machine?
That was, I think, 2 machines were sold at almost at 7 crores.
2 machines?
2 machines. It was the only
7 crores?
7 crores.
Which year?
This I'm talking is 2007.
Wow. 8. And for what kind of business?
It was almost 120 crore business.
Oh, so you're showing 100 crore business. So 7 crore ka machine to kuch bhi nahi hai.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was a larger than life kind of a model where it was the potential was heavy. And it was a virgin market to be catered.
Lovely.
So again, there, see, if I would have gone just to speak about, and there, the best part for me was the customer himself had the conviction to buy this machine, because he also understood that the pain point could not be addressed by putting 100 machines. I need a machine that can actually do it on the fly.
Right.
So he already had analyzed it, and that was like, for me, it was 50% job done.
Lovely.
I had just had to join the dots and show him that this is where this machine can easily fit in, and they evaluated it themselves.
Lovely.
And they bought the machine. I never sold the machine to them. They bought the machine.
Lovely.
So that's the difference.
Lovely.
So
I'm sure, you in terms of what you're selling, value selling is so critical, because when you're creating a market of what you've been doing since the days where it was painting and not printing, changing that industry, you have to value sell, otherwise you'll never be able to convince.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, $1 million machines in those days, at whatever dollar value it would be, but still there was no market, and to create that market, and so today, that transition. So the decade of 2000, from 2000 to 2010. See, if I really have to break my career into 3 decades. So my second decade was all about, double-sided printing and the solvents, and it was all about, and 10 to 20 was all about, the next level of business. It was, so my second decade was all about, setting up platform, setting up the foundation.
I think
to take it to a next
you
level.
created latex into this huge behemoth. I think there are around 2,000, 3,000 machines
It was
today,
always- So
along with your team.
I still remember when the first machine was given to me to sell. So that started in 2010. So 2010, when the machine started coming in, the first machine that came in was like, it was like you're comparing, like imagine a 65 lakh machine to a 15 lakh machine, and you have been told to sell a machine in that same space where the target audience is same. How do you do that? Again, the disruption. So my second decade was all about, my third decade was all about disrupting again that market, and how. So from outdoors we came indoors. So my focus completely went from, obviously because the company wanted me to get into that space, and I started utilizing my same background skills as far as, and
Lovely.
then I started again going to the corporates,
Lovely.
again meeting them, again showing them, again applying the same principles. And one fine day it happened that when
So what I can understand from your journey, I think you met more corporates than the potential guys who would buy your machine, in terms of convincing them
Yes,
about the technology,
yes.
and thereby creating a pull for the
I
market.
was never directly involved with sales as such, other than the ultra wide format, I would say. Not large format is a 5 foot, I would say, but I was always in the ultra wide format, where anything
10
which is
feet,
in the 10 feet,
10
and
feet.
15 feet and all. So I was always, so there my connect used to always, but those are handfuls. I mean, if you look at that time when it was a handful compared to, if you look at that ratio, it's like 20:1.
Sure.
That was the ratio.
Sure.
So but the thing is that sale, and the company had its own, the supply chain model was in place, the channel placement was there. So the sales engine was already well established. So what Bob needed was the trigger point. So where the sale would happen. So I was always at that trigger point where I used to go and talk to.
So you had this amazing journey from starting as a young sales guy to probably head the HP business for wide format in India. So what's your, like, in one sentence, if you had to say about your journey, what would you say, and advice to the generation who's currently probably going to watch this video, in terms of how they should look at their career and how they can grow?
See, I think first of all, I mean, just to correct yours, this thing, I was not heading the entire side. I was just on the graphic side, on the
Okay,
latex
on the white
front.
format.
On the white format,
White
yes,
format.
I was more on the category front, and I was also country lead for all the stuff. But I would attribute my whatever I have done, I've been absolutely satisfied with till date with what I've done, primarily because I have enjoyed what I do. That is one. Secondly, always try to put the customer in your, you get into the customer's shoes, and always try to address first the pain points around them, and then go for the kill. For the sale, I would say, I wouldn't use that word kill, but for the sale. So this has been my mantra. Like, okay, when you do a lot of, when you try to reinvent the wheel, there are always certain cases where you go wrong or you go right, but it's always a trial and error thing, because there is no reference point to whatever you do. You always have to reinvent everything. In that process, sometimes you do right, sometimes you do go wrong, but that's part of the process. So it's not that we have not made mistakes. We have also kind of learnt it from the mistakes as such, So generally, it's not that every time there has been a good sale. There has always been also been a bad sale, but from there you learn and then try to rectify it in your next sale.
Yeah.
So I would always say that, always learn from every sale and try to correct yourself in the next sale, and try to grow from a perspective that your ethics are in place. And one thing I always want to say is that never use your brand vehicle to sell a printer to a businessman. Don't do that.
But explain a little bit more. What do you mean?
Today, see, it's you go as a brand, and you go and sit in front of a customer and talk like, I'm coming from so and so company. There is a brand value attached to it, but a brand is recognized in front of the guy when the person who's representing the brand has that brand driven values.
He has the equity himself.
Exactly. That is missing today. That's completely missing.
Okay. So what would you advise them? How could they build that?
That's because that is where first understand from where you're coming, what are the brand ethics, what is it that the brand is all about, and can you can you imbibe that in your day-to-day activity? And it's not about sale, it's about creating that value in the eyes of the customer who will buy your product. Don't hard sell a product. By hard selling, you're demeaning the amount of R&D that has gone behind, because a product is made with an intent to manage or address a certain pain points of the market.
Again, I think we're coming back to that value selling and consultative approach towards sales, rather than being a hardcore salesman just trying to push your box across.
Exactly. I mean, see, today if you look at it, you look at the way technologies have come in. At every stage, it was a solvent, then there was an eco-solvent, then there was a latex as a technology, then UV came in. Why has these got evolved? Because they have been addressing certain pain points at certain point of time. Right? Now, every company that does it has invested with a certain intent behind it.
Right.
Now, that intent needs to first get aligned with the requirement, whether the customer actually needs it or not.
Correct.
We have done that mistake, to be very honest. Like, we have done wrong sales. We have gone and sold to a wrong person who actually didn't need that machine, but we have done it. So I don't
unintentionally, probably you didn't expect it to.
Unexpected, but it was that, somewhere we understood that it's not the right sale to this, but the product was not wrong, but it was the wrong way of
A misfit,
I would say. So this thing, first needs to be understood, and unfortunately today what I see is that digital has become a commodity. In a way it's good, but in a way it's not healthy, because you need to first understand behind the technology, what are its advantages, disadvantages, whether the customer needs it or not. There are so many cases today where the customer has failed, even with the best of the brand machines. And there are some great cases where with the worst of the brands they have done exceedingly well.
Sure.
There are both sides of it, right? So it's at the end of the day a combination of all elements that comes together. So I think if the guys today in the corporate world, especially in the brand space, if they understand, they give more value and not to a sale, I think that will really help them a lot.
Lovely. So now from being an employee, you turned into be an entrepreneur yourself.
Yeah.
So
it has been a very anxious journey.
So how's the transition been, having worked for 30 years, when you know that your paycheck is going to come for sure, and then you get into business? So how is it?
It's again an adventure. It's I really
a new piece of adventure.
It's again a new piece of adventure at this stage of my life, and it is like again interesting. But at least now, one good thing what I see is that.
But you're in the same space, right?
In the same space, but I feel that somewhere I felt that there is a lot more to be contributed, and we feel that so we group bunch of professionals, we have come together, and what we feel over here is that there is something more we can now give. There are a lot of gaps we still see, whether it is a brand side of it, or whether it is a printer side of it, or whether it is a total ecosystem side of it. So this company is an intent where we want to join those dots and not just focus on print, but we want to give something beyond print.
Lovely.
So that's the intent behind this, and it's an exciting journey. It's very anxious journey till now, but it's shaping up. I mean, till now God has been great in terms of all the disruptions that I've managed. Has paid off. Again, this time also we'll see how it is. But in 2 years we have done pretty well for ourselves.
Lovely.
We have kind of created a niche for us in the market. Corporates have once again, given us that confidence.
So it was a vote of confidence to Santosh Nair as a brand.
That is something which I really thought it that way, and to some extent it's yes, because I feel that whatever hard work has been today somewhere the brand. People have recognized
recognize you,
and they have. It was, see, as I told you, a brand is built by people.
Yeah.
Right. If my conduct in a particular company is not right, or whatever it is, it hits the company as well.
True.
Right. There are very classic examples right in front of you. What is not going right and wrong for many brands.
Yeah.
So it is all up to the people how they are doing it. Right. So that's kind of has paid off, and for a homegrown company, to get recognized in this short while has been something great. Lovely. And we are striving to see that that same legacy goes, and whatever we have been doing for the corporates, now we want to do it ourselves as part of our own company for Not only for
Yeah, and
printers,
it is a time for Indian companies to come and create
Yeah.
that brand. Why only American and Israel companies do that? Why not
No,
Indian
why not
companies?
Indian
I'm
companies?
sure, and
Yeah.
you're doing a phenomenal job. More power to you. You should
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
do
I
it.
think so. Yes, and we are kind of shaping up well to that extent.
great.
It's a journey. Again, see, and we are trying to just put across all our last
Knowledge
whatever
of these
knowledge
many
and
years.
and the product should reflect in that
Lovely,
way.
I'm sure.
So we are there in that. So it's there. I mean, we are just trying.
अभी
to
तक सब अच्छा अच्छा है. So have you faced challenges? Yeah, सब you've been like a rock star always.
No. I mean, my case has never been easy cakewalk because they say that whoever wants to disrupt first needs to get disrupted. So
Some examples of your
I mean, many
tough
cases,
times?
tough times. Like I have been, in my past, whether it was, the product was not as per the expectation of customers. Where I was in Middle East, I was locked for like 3 days.
Locked?
I was locked for 3 days. I was like literally kidnapped. That's unless this machine goes well, you're not going to leave the company. I mean, so it was the premises basically. So I have been those times as well where, or the kind of accident.
Quite a demanding customer.
Yes, a lot of stuff. Or probably there have been cases.
And
where
that too in Middle East.
That was in Middle East. Then when I came back, in India also it happened when the customers were like quite furious with what was told, what was delivered was not up to the
Did not
mark,
match.
and it doesn't match. Then a lot of issues, because see, we are also in that learning stage, and whatever we say, necessarily at times, because those were the times when things were being developed. So those challenges were always there, and at times it has failed, at times it has gone beyond expectation. So it has happened both ways, and there are certain houses which has really taken it to a different level.
I'm sure there has to be a mix of everything. Yeah.
So, and there are certain cases where it has failed miserably. So it's just part of the way it happens, and these are all combinations of how the person sells it and how the purchaser takes it.
Lovely. So tell me, you told me you have 30 years of experience. I was asking my team, how do you think, how old is this guy? And they were like, you look around 30. So how are you like maintaining and managing yourself to be looking so young at 55 or something, what you told me?
Yeah, I'm 55. And
so any special secrets that you want to share with us? How are you managing?
Be happy always, and be, always
disrupt the market.
Disrupt the market and enjoy what you do. Don't take job as a job. So one thing which I always say, that if your work is your passion, then it is no more a work. So, and if your hobby is your work, it's again much more better.
Lovely.
So for me, printing always has been my passion. It has been my hobby kind of, and I have always enjoyed working. So for me, round the clock, so that has kept me going. And I'm a very happy guy. I always try to be cheerful all the time, and you'll always see me smiling.
I can vouch on that. Even the times that I didn't know you personally, I've seen you with that bright smile and vivacious energy.
Yeah. And
so I think you always have carried that.
It was always the fire. It was always been, whether in the system or anywhere,
sure.
because once we come into a corporate level, there's a lot of
numbers
which
is expected to be delivered.
Fortunately for me, it paid off well, and
Sure.
Nothing happens individually.
Yeah.
I always believe it's a team effort.
It's a teamwork.
And previously in my stint, wherever I have been, whether it's my employers or whether it's my team members, or the kind of gelling that happens, that actually leads to disruption. And everyone has to believe in a common factor. So that actually gave me a lot of confidence, and wherever I am today, I'm applying it in my own company, and let's see how it goes. I mean, it's been a 32 years journey. It's been amazing.
Superb. Yeah, Santosh, thanks for your time. I just have 2 more questions for you, which is more for us, which we ask all our guests.
Okay.
It's one is, I wanted to have you in terms of your experience and sharing your journey as a employee and then as a professional running a business. Whom do you think you would like us to meet as a reference for the podcast? Some references for us?
Yeah, see, I think, one thing is there, let's look, if you ask me, let's look also beyond prints.
Okay.
Because today print is, in its totality, is useless if it is not presented in the entire system. In its completeness, if it is not given. So there are a lot of people who are actually influencing a print today. Like, why can't we look at some people like, I've just given name of Shri Hari, who was with ESCO, and now he's like heading a corporate.
Lovely.
They are the people who have actually brought the cutting solutions to its glamour what it is today.
So you're basically meaning those guys who are at the backdrop, who are not seen, and adding value to the print.
Value. Yes.
Okay.
Such people also should be brought to the high.
That's
like for example, today why is like so many laser cutters being sold, or why are the cutting machines being sold so much? That's because somebody's hard work was there to create a value proposition out of it. That's when the followers follow.
These guys, the color management guys.
I think they should also be brought to the front.
Any references, Shri Hari, I'll surely take that contact from you.
Yeah, and then you should also look at allied or the upcoming segments. Like for example, corrugation is one subject which I really feel is going to be the future in a big way. So you should look at somebody like Mr. Harish Mehta. He's the
Jaina Packaging.
He's a stalwart because I think this guy can actually go in Guinness Book of Records for holding maximum number of trophies. I mean, if you actually look at him, there are some 300 trophies around him by an individual. I don't think anyone in the world has got to so much. Wow. And with 60 plus patents,
Lovely.
So somebody sitting in India, we are not even highlighting him.
We're not aware of him.
Yeah. Ideally, we should be actually,
idolizing him.
And the next generation should know about him. Because he is one guy who has always been running parallel with the industry.
Lovely.
Everyone has gone from the PVC base to the cheapest stuff to ensure that, it is, I would really like to say, dumped into the market. Here is a guy who has always been eco-friendly conscious right from last
stuck 40 to years. Paper.
For last so 40 years. I mean,
only corrugation.
Only corrugation. Today, I mean, corrugation is a subject which is even discussed with a pinch of anxiety attached to it, hoga ke nahi hoga types. This guy has done this 40 years ago, and even today he's running strong.
Lovely.
So such stalwarts should be actually brought to the front. So my suggestion is, ideally we should look at people who are beyond print as well, because they are the influencers. Because today's print, what you see, it has that aesthetic value to it, not because it's a print, because of the way it has been presented.
The guys who are behind, they are the actual players.
Yeah, the actual players. And that is why today a printer who has a print is no more considered valuable, but a guy who has everything along with print is considered more valuable.
Yeah, true.
But
you have to be a solution provider.
You have to be a solution provider.
Yeah, so the guys who are into color management, someone who's into giving these kind of cutting solutions, sure, I would love to. Actually, the whole idea of Ink Stories also was in terms of getting different perspectives and your own journey of transforming from hand painting to print. In terms of that needs to be recorded. Probably till YouTube is there, this story is available for people to listen to and refer and probably discuss and learn from.
Correct.
That's the whole idea. I'm sure I would love to take this contact from you. I have Harish's contact. I am going to contact him.
He's one guy who can give you a different perspective altogether. Sure. Because his idea and his vision was where, he took that company to a different level, and one of the few guys who really is who has that technical knowledge, but at the same time has a great PR in the industry. Is well respected. So whether it is Harish Bhai, Shri, these are the guys, these guys need to be heard.
Surely. Definitely we'll cover them. And the last question is about, what do you think about this podcast? You did it with us. Any
amazing
advice for us?
It's a great, to be very honest, I'm very jealous that you did it. I always wanted to do that, but trust me, it's a great initiative. You are actually doing a cause because legacy needs to be heard by the new generation that's coming in. Because now I see all the big companies, next generation has joined the companies.
Yes.
The second generation is coming up.
Yes.
Now those second generation guys should actually know the back end progress or from where it started. So that logical reasoning falls into place. And today's generation coming in is a lot of logical reasoning. They just don't talk commercials in a way unless they have a logical reasoning behind it. And that will come from these podcasts when they are exposed to such podcasts, when the legends speak and when they understand, this is how it has started. So the perspective of their thinking will get influenced a lot.
Absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
today in it, if you just isolate these things and just present it to them, they will look at it just as a business model where this is a product I have to sell, but they will not understand the challenges or how it has evolved over a period of time.
Yes, I think that evolution is very
That
important.
evolution is very important, because tomorrow these guys, when they analyze a new product
Yeah.
which has to be brought into the company, they need to have that background understanding that why we need to look at this.
How have people before us done?
Done.
How did they transform? How did
Exactly.
they bring the change? And
Exactly.
probably we can use some
Some
tools
tip out
from
of
what they
that.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. That's the whole idea.
That's the whole
Lovely.
idea.
Lovely.
So that
Nice
I
one.
think we need to I think this podcast is really going to be, and you feel at any given time, you feel that I need to be part of such kind of, more than happy to be part of such kind of podcast.
Lovely, lovely. Thanks. I will surely think about it. In
You
terms of,
should also, I think, one more suggestion I am giving, my suggestion.
Yeah,
is
please.
That you should kickstart a lot of topics and have a panel discussion
Yes,
going on this.
yes. We actually you said that what is there in our mind in terms of having a panel discussion with a group of people. So we just probably are taking some time, and we'll be having that also lined up sometime.
So if you feel that I can be part of that initiative,
lovely.
I would be more than happy to be part, because this is something I would really love. It's more from a personal thing. I gain a lot of knowledge because I love gaining knowledge.
Yeah.
And
Once only when you talk to people you gain knowledge. You can't
exactly
be in isolation and learn.
So if you have the topics which is the relevance to this, and if you have the stalwart speaking,
True.
that is further more different level of people want it, and unfortunately it's not there.
Right.
I mean, imagine the best of the legends are on a single platform. One time you are talking about inks, second you are talking about technology, third is about allied solutions, fourth is about artificial intelligence. There are so many companies
AI
which are now
happening in printing,
looking at
3D printing.
3D printing.
Yeah,
I mean, these are stuff which needs to be understood from a real time perspective, not theory.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're being taught in the printing schools does not apply here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just academics.
True.
But these are the real time experiences which will help the next generation to mold.
Totally.
And give a shape to it.
Yeah.
I mean, till now it has been excellent. But I think the next generation's thought process is absolutely.
They are not just going to take it on the top of a hat. They need a proper explanation. Kyun karna hai?
Kyun karna hai? Yeah. So that will need these kind of inputs.
Lovely. Thanks. I appreciate, Santosh, your time of coming on this rainy day and sharing your journey with us. I'm sure our viewers and listeners would love to hear your story and share their feedback with us. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.